Hey traders, checking in on the stock market today. Bulls holding the gains from yesterday for the most part. A bullish reaction to the Fed FOMC minutes, but a sell-off into the end of the day with some profit taking. Where do we stand from here? I'm going to go over recognizing correlation shifts and how they helped me trade today against the biotech sector after trading with it for a number of days. All right, we started the morning with a futures 4-hour bull flag attempt, and we looked at these levels and we could clearly say we are either going to hold this support and see continuation, or we're going to break that support and look for a 4-hour equilibrium to then be the most likely scenario. We held support and initially broke one resistance level on the S&P 500. The NASDAQ only had one nearby resistance level, but the S&P 500 had two. And so we knew not to be faked out as we did not break the second resistance level, and then we pulled back from there. We held support again, and then a bullish reaction to the Fed minutes. So in the end, where do we stand? Well, we're heading into the next couple of days, 2 trading days left this week, with 2 scenarios that are going to play out. Well, let's see. We could have 3. There's always usually 3. But we are either going to confirm, this is SPY, the daily trend change for the bulls. We are going to set a daily lower high and an equilibrium tightening up into next week, or we're going to fail resistance and break support and bears take back over again. The hourly uptrend is our guide for this. The hourly on SPY, I would call anything above. There's a little bit of a lower wick there from the low of the FOMC minutes reaction, and you can use that level, or you could just say the low of the day at 379.60. All depends on how strict or lenient you want to be. But we're watching the hourly uptrend because when it is lost, that'll be the first indication that our daily lower high is being set. If we're going to break resistance, all of our sectors have to participate. And there were periods of time today where all of our sectors were participating for the bulls, but that has to happen. You can't have, in my opinion, one of our major sectors consolidating and the other sectors strong enough for SPY to be breaking that resistance. It's got to be a team effort to confirm that first daily uptrend. And again, it would be the first clear daily higher low and higher high in a long time for SPY, a very long time. And go to the 2-day time frame if we want to condense it down. When's the last time we saw a 2-day higher low and higher high? And it was back here at the end of February, start of March. So that has been 3 months, March, April, May, June, 4 months. If the bulls can pull it off, they still have the proving to do. So the NASDAQ has been stronger, and we look at QQQ divided by SPY, and we can see that. And so the bulls want to get to the highest levels that we've seen in over 2 months. We're going to continue watching this. The 4-hour setup this morning only had one resistance level to break, but we broke resistance. SPY did not follow, so we didn't get overly bullish on the morning. The FOMC minutes reaction was bullish, and we saw continuation. I'm going to do a couple trade reviews at the end of the day, or end of the video. We'll do the biotech sector, and then I did take some trades on the FOMC reaction, and we'll look to those as well. The kind of day where things are just clicking on all cylinders, and if you give me any open-minded technical analyst skeptic, put them in the room with me today, and they're convinced. They have to be open-minded, of course, but the nailing of bolt directions and the different time frames and how they're aligning, just complete flow state, which is always nice. So NASDAQ, daily, QQQ, same deal. Has to break. Hourly uptrend is our guide. Absolutely watching for the possibility of a daily lower high to be the result of this bounce. Semiconductors with bounce follow through. I'm watching for a daily lower high here. It's a bearish sector. We're in a daily downtrend. We have a ton of space to still form a daily lower high. So I would call anything under 218.81 a daily lower high on this bounce. Same thing, I'm watching the hourly uptrend as a guide. And over the next couple of days, I'll be scouting for weakness. We rejected from the daily EMA 12 last time around. So we're watching for that to come into play. And if we reject again, the daily lower high will be set. Hourly uptrend is the guide. Tesla 2-day equilibrium continues to tighten. Barely broke the high of yesterday. Definitely one of the weaker names. And it probably will be the last to break. And again, we've been watching this group, but 8% away. Look at Google. So 8% away versus less than 4% away. Look at Amazon. 3% away. So Amazon is the closest to a resistance break. Google needs to follow if the tech bulls are going to get real confident. And then Tesla will attempt to act as the laggard, but clearly weaker. Lori mentioning that perhaps oil being so weak is a bit of a headwind against EV, with oil prices dropping, gasoline dropping as well. But definitely some weakness in China, which we will look at. Some names recovered, Baba recovered, but NIOs, well, let's look at it now. NIO. Well, let's finish this up. So Tesla, anything under 756 is just a lower high. We can absolutely remain within this tightening range into next week and a few days into next week even. But we're watching Amazon and Google closely because if QQQ is going to take that lead bull status and confirm that daily trend change, Amazon and Google both have to break their patterns bullish from these ranges that have been tightening up for over a month. NIO, the shifting correlation. I made a post on Twitter saying, what are the most recent things that you've added as a trader that have been beneficial? And for me, it was wedges. A couple years ago, it was very beneficial for me. And the most recent thing is correlation, just really honing in. And when it's flowing and you're in flow state like today, it's almost like a cheat code. But this is an example of a correlation shifting on a daily perspective. On the XBI Trader View, we're going to look at correlation shifting on the 5-minute time frame. So it happens on different time frames. NIO gave a red flag on Friday. I cut the bulls some slack yesterday after the size of that bounce, but they're still on thin ice. And we're down 6% today when the broader market is green. So if we look at NIO divided by QQQ, the weekly perspective, we pretty much had 6 weeks of comparative strength against the broader market. And a very notable shift the last 2 weeks. We have been weaker than the broader market the last 2 weeks. And so NIO, just 5-minute RSI, short-term RSI levels getting absolutely crushed and leading to lower lows. Look at on the way up what happened when 15-minute RSI got oversold and how long we stayed oversold. And now look at it on the way down. It's very different in the sense that we stay oversold a lot longer. We hit oversold on the first 15-minute candle of the day. And we didn't have any meaningful bounce for the next 2 hours, and it just stayed oversold. So we're looking for an hourly lower high to be the result of this bounce. And NIO, we're definitely looking for a weekly higher low, but it's getting the boot from my lead bull list. And we compare to the other Chinese names, Baba, inside bar, fairly strong close, keeping that resistance in play. And Baidu, weaker. Baidu confirmed the downtrend, but no follow through at this point. So weekly consolidation underway. But Baba, keeping those hourly higher lows. Daily EMA 12 is our guide. Healthcare staying strong as well. Daily bull flag 130.59 is a double top. Have to break that level to confirm the bull flag. If we break it, it's a point in favor of the SPY bulls as far as their potential ability to confirm the daily trend change or not. We know this is our lead bull major sector. Hourly uptrend, short-term guide. Bears clearly defending resistance both this morning and this afternoon, but it is still in play for the rest of the week. Lead bull has to break that resistance to try and incite other sectors to shift bullish as well, because XLF is just middle of the road. It's not doing anything, just sideways. So what I do every morning when I'm watching our major sectors, who's team bull captain, who's team bear captain, who are the leaders? And then once that is established in the first 10-15 minutes, how does it shift? Does the lead bull start to weaken and join team bear? Does the lead bear start to strengthen and join team bull? That's essentially how I spend the first 20 minutes of the trading day, is getting a gauge of how all of these sectors are relating to each other. And so we're now doing that on XLF on the daily time frame. We got XLV as team bull captain out of our major sectors. QQQ has joined team bull the last couple of days. XLF is not on team bull and it's not on team bear until we break this 4-day sideways range. So it's either going to break support of 30.85 and head towards the low, or break resistance of 31.98 and head towards the high. So XLF has to join team bull if SPY is going to be able to confirm that daily trend change. So I don't trade XLF often at all. Maybe once a month at most. But I'm watching it daily because it is most often the name that's on the fence. Not most often. There's plenty of times it's weaker. It hasn't been stronger in a long time, but it's often on the fence. And the direction that it... throat is killing me still. The direction that it then leans to gives us information. And that's exactly how we're setting up on the daily time frame. IWM. Oops. IWM is similar. So trying to get the daily bounce going. Weaker today. Very clearly stood out. A lot of today was down 1-2%, as every other sector on my screen was green. Bulls must break 178.15 to follow through. If we set a daily lower high and pull back before SPY and QQQ do, that'll be a tally in the bear column, increasing probabilities that SPY and QQQ will form daily lower highs as well. So keeping an eye out. IWM was team bear captain for the day, and we'll see how that changes tomorrow if it does. Biotech sector, beautiful beast mode follow through all morning, but consolidation's inevitable. Bulls running out of steam. Bearish reversal doji with an upper wick, potentially a little volume climax from the last 7 trading days. So where was the shift in correlation? Look at how we started. Very strong. 5-minute higher low, higher high. I recognized the shift right here. How did I recognize it? Again, you can look at the XBI divided by SPY chart if it helps you see it. But for me, I'm just watching XBI trade, and I'm watching, for me it was QQQ. I was watching how QQQ was trading and comparing them. And just watching to see who's stronger, who's weaker. And I'm just watching the bid and the ask, and I'm watching who's ticking up to higher highs and who is not. And so some screenshots here. So I am short for the 5-minute lower high on XBI, just the slightest relative weakness the last 5 minutes, and need QQQ to see some weakness to help my bear position. And that was right here, because anything under the high of the day at that point is a 5-minute lower high. The size of this pullback was big enough for me to anticipate a 5-minute lower high was the more likely scenario at that point. And I was zoomed in here, and I was watching these upper wicks. I want to just see what else I wrote here. 2-minute upper wicks, out half because of 8204 support, and then back in half. So here is that pullback. I exited half because we were testing support. Because I exited that half, I was extremely comfortable the entire time on this trade. If I don't exit that partial position at support, knowing I'm playing counter trend, I'm playing against a weekly, daily, hourly, and 5-minute uptrend. So I got to take some profit real quick to be in control of that trade. If I did not, and we bounced here and tested the high of the day, I'm now in the red on that trade and not comfortable. Granted, we didn't break the high of the day, so I probably would have stuck with it, but by selling that half, I'm then able to reload half and play top fish all over again. So sell half, back in the half that I sold. But let's just look at those wicks. What was standing out to me? So 1024, 1026. So it's a 4-minute window between 1024 to, that's a 2-minute window. What exact minutes are we talking here? So I'm talking 1024 to 1028. So 1024 to 1028, we got that upper wick, those upper wicks forming. What's QQQ doing at that point in time? Because again, I'm just staring at the two together. 1024 to 1028. So here's 1024. Red candle. All right, that matches QQQ, or that matches XBI. Not much of a difference there. This candle right here. So then what? QQQ inside bar, bull break. The highest level of the bounce was hit, the third candle in. XBI, no inside bar, broke support just barely, no follow through. So this candle right here is what solidified some confidence because QQQ is at the high, and if XBI was as strong as QQQ, we would have been at 82.92. Instead, we're at the lowest point in the last 6 minutes of trading. It's a very clear shift in going in the opposite direction. and then we pull back, and then from there, just let it play out. I then exited. I was going to exit at 5-minute oversold conditions, looking for it to be a back burner bounce, but I saw SPY was shaping up a falling wedge on the 5-minute time frame. And I also was not going to be surprised if the bulls front ran first 5-minute oversold conditions after how strong we had been. This 5-minute falling wedge on SPY had validity for me because hourly higher low is the most likely scenario. So if a 5-minute falling wedge is shaping up in an hourly downtrend, I don't really care much. But if a 5-minute falling wedge is shaping up when an hourly higher low is the most likely scenario, I care a lot more. And so that helped me exit XBI down near the low, exited the rest of my LABD short, the leveraged ETF, probably exited somewhere around the 80-50s or so. And then I went long on this bounce. Inside bar bull break, just a quick flip. No huge win, but maybe another half day maker tagged on. And then I was pretty much done with it after that. But just both directions were going really nicely. And now the question is, does this relative weakness continue? Do we see? And it did into the end of the day, where SPY and QQQ hit a new high of the day here. And XBI did not come close. So XBI is potentially shaping up for an hourly downtrend if we break the low of today tomorrow into daily consolidation. So keeping an eye out for that possibility. But overall, then we will zoom out. We'll watch first hourly oversold conditions if we get there for a bounce, and we're watching for a daily higher low. MSOS, some follow through today. So I ended up doing a little bit of maneuvering, saw some relative weakness here as well, exited half of my position at 1120. And at that point, we double bottomed at the low of the day. I said, all right, well, I sold half my position at 1120. SPY right now is forming an hourly higher low. Again, it was that falling wedge shaping up. And so I said, well, I can rebuy cheaper than I sold it if 11 breaks, because 11 was a psychological resistance. So I put a stop buy at 1101 for exactly what I sold at 1120 and was triggered in at 1104. So now I have my position back. I put my stop under 1089. My logic was, all right, I sold at 1120. I can rebuy at 1104 and stick my stop under 1089. I stuck my stop at 1088. I put it right there, saying, okay, well, if we see a new low of the day, I want to be out of that half position because bears will be showing me some control. But if the low of the day is set, that's our hourly higher low at 1089, and we could see continuation. So back in my full position and essentially just shaved off a little over 0.5% because it was a half position, little over 0.5% from my break even. So now my break even is probably along the lines of 1050 or so. I will sell half eventually, because if I sell half over $11, I can put my stop under the all-time low, the double bottom at 10, and be risk-free. I can't lose on that trade. So that's the position I'm going to get into eventually, because we are in a downtrend. And I did say that I would do an MJ-specific video if we were green today, and we're green, so I'll do that tomorrow. Maybe midday, maybe after hours, haven't decided yet. But psychedelic names, CMPS. Look at CMPS. It's up almost 100%. Very quietly. ATAI, big green day today, confirming the daily trend change. It's only up 35%, but we're seeing out of the psychedelic and cannabis names, these two are definitely lead bulls. TLRY had a little bit of a mini short squeeze today. Look at the hourly on the morning. 330 to 354, nice 7% move. So again, a little bit more risk on mindset. These names are, look at the bounce for 2 months. Names that got crushed harder are going to bottom before the broader market does. But anyways, these names are as high risk, high reward as you can get. There's a Netflix documentary coming out in a couple weeks on the topic. And 100% is a lot. It's only 90%, but only. The dollar is still strong. 4-hour bull flag confirmed. And just tons of space for a daily higher low next time we consolidate. So again, the broader market bulls can look at this and say, well, we're going up even though the dollar is strong. So that's one positive. But the metals, again, I keep dogging on the metals, but they deserve it. This is just the bears twisting that knife into those fundamental bulls that are on the inflation narrative or didn't have stop losses because fundamentals or whatever. It's just, you can't let trades get away from you like this. So here we are in daily oversold conditions, real beat up. We're going to look for a temporary short-term bottom and a temporary short-term top on the dollar, but not yet. Haven't seen any sign of it yet. And we can bounce notably and just set a daily lower high next bounce. So bears have absolute control of the metals and the miners as well. A little bit of a lower wick on the miners. Again, anticipating a short-term temporary bottom, but then just looking for daily lower highs. I will continue to focus bearish on names in daily downtrends that have space for lower highs, like miners, like metals, like energy, like semiconductors, and I will continue to focus bullish on names in uptrends. I made a tweet yesterday. I find it fascinating. I mean, it makes sense for the general population to be able to say the market's bullish or bearish and just use one word to just summarize the market. But if you are doing this with any kind of seriousness, you cannot sum up the market in one word. You have names that are 30, 50% off their lows, and you have names that were strong and have rolled over. So the energy sector dropping 27, 30% over the last 3 weeks, and the biotech sector up 27, 30% over the last 2 weeks. You're going to lump them together and use one word to summarize that? No, you got to zoom in because there are notable bulls and notable bears. On the way up, there were a lot more notable bulls than notable bears, but there were bears out there. And on the way down, there's a lot more notable bears than notable bulls, but they're out there. And so, don't paint the entire market with a one-word brush because there's a lot going on under the hood in different directions. Oil, weakness continued. Tight 2-hour equilibrium was a good one on the morning. Broke bear. Bear break didn't have a ton of follow through. So again, another name. Watching for a short-term bottom in commodities and a short-term top in the dollar. I'm not going to be trading for it. I'm not going to be trying to fight the dollar's strength and trade counter trend for some bounces here. But look at the energy sector and the monthly EMA 12. So I know I'm looking for a monthly high or low on energy. It's just a question of where. But the short-term hourly downtrend remains a guide. But again, I'm watching for the energy sector to bounce with commodities when the dollar finds a temporary top. We'll look for the hourly trend change. And then we'll zoom out and just look for a daily lower high. Anything under 77, at least initially. All right, throat's done. Thanks for bearing with me. One more trade here. So how did I trade the reaction to the minutes? I looked for a 2-minute lower high on the S&P 500, and I was actually on the 1 minute. I meant to say a 1 minute lower high, but I said 2 minute. Anyways, I saw this top of this bounce here because the size of the pullback to the lower low. So I had top of this bounce, and let's just use SPY because that's what I was using. Top of the bounce, 382.05, 382.06, 382.02. I see that, I short, and I will just stop out if those levels break. And so I then stopped out. I sold half really quickly on the initial 1 minute big red candle. So I'm now risk free, and then I stopped out on this bull move. So all right, I failed to short. So now what? Well, then I look at the S&P 500 futures and I see a hard rejection here. So what are we rejecting from? Go to the 4-hour time frame on the futures chart. Actually, we're going to go to the hourly. And on the hourly, look at this resistance zone. We topped out the high of the initial bounce. We rejected, 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 rejected. And at that point, it was a 6th rejection from this resistance zone. And that is why we pulled back this hard. So it was the initial move. So I'm aware of that resistance on that rejection, which is why I short that lower high, attempting for bear continuation. Because if you get a convincing rejection, the tide then changes for the entirety of the rest of the day. So I was wrong, I stop out. I then see it bounce back to that resistance, and I say, the fact that we're even getting back to test that resistance level, I'm finding that very bullish. Because that resistance line you can see from space. Everybody is looking at that resistance. Bears are top fishing it every time you get there. And so the fact that there was enough buying pressure to take us back to that resistance level after such a clear fifth rejection, I started to believe the bulls. But I said, I need a 1 minute trend change here. If bulls confirm, so 231. So that's right here. I say if bulls confirm a 1 minute trend change here, I will believe them a lot more. So straight up move, another rejection from resistance, very quick higher low, and then the bull break. And I anticipated that that bull break would have followed through because, again, everybody's going off that level. Shorts trying to top fish it would stop out as their trade fails, and bulls looking to long that resistance break would do so. So we got real quick follow through where we then went from that 1 minute trend change, we then went 0.5% higher. And I'm trading the leveraged ETFs, so that's a 1.5% move in 15 minutes. So made an entry on SPXL, exited a couple quarters on that initial move, just in case we break with no follow through. I want to protect against that because I don't often buy a resistance break, especially being a little bit extended on the shorter term time frames there. So I go a little bit more in size, I sell half real quick, and then I let the other quarters play out a little bit longer. And again, that was just another little 60% day maker trade. But the most important factor for me was getting back to resistance after it is such a clear level and we reject for a fifth time. All right, I'm done. Do good things. See you tomorrow.
Gladioluses are all blooming. These ones are struggling to stand up, but some nice reds and yellows. Some peach. The squirrels planted in the mulch pile are not doing well. Not many nutrients in there, but the ones that are in the beds that have actual soil close by are doing a lot better. Not that bush though, might have to swap that out for something that gives flowers or fruit. Bunch of mint, lavender. Hardy kiwis are just establishing their roots. I put some lights up this guy, and we got the vine still working its way up. That'll probably flower in another month. Pokeweed in the mulch or in the compost pile. Bunch of potatoes that'll probably give away. Flowers are filling out in the pots here. That's some amaranth. Gonna clear out the greenhouse soon, have it ready to put in stuff for the winter. In the fall I'll plant a bunch of greens in here. Volunteer tomato. Eucalyptus taking root, starting to look good. You can tell when a plant takes root after you transplant it because its growth just explodes. Blackberries. You can see they're all red here, so there'll be another week until they're all deep purple. Behind it we got this plum tree putting on fruit for the first time, and grapes.